I think we can go ahead and get started with the meeting. As you can see from the agenda, I think it's going to be a pretty short meeting. Not a lot to go over, but we may get into some of these topics. So with that being said, I'll just get right into it. I want to give you guys an update on the 218 East 7th Street property. So since we've last talked, the contract has been executed for that work and they've started doing work on the property. That work started earlier in August. From my understanding, it's been moving along nicely. I've spoken with the homeowner. She has no issues with the work that's been done so far, or the work that they're proposing to do. And they Blue Sky does currently have a representative that's staying up in the Leadville area to stay on top of the project and make sure that there aren't any hiccups, or you can address any concerns that happen in real time. The one thing I did want to make you all aware of is we did have to already do one amendment to the contract. When they went to move the electrical panel out to be flush with the new siding, they discovered some code issues, so we had to upgrade the electrical panel. That was a cost of, let me just pull that up real quick. That was an additional cost of $11,000, $11,900. So we did an option letter to amend the contract for that additional amount, and Blue Sky had an electrician on standby to do that work. So that option letter was executed, I believe, last week. And so my understanding is that electrician was going to be moving forward with doing that work. But other than that, that was the only real hiccup that I've been made aware of so far on the project. Do you guys have any questions for me on that?
Kyle, remind me what the timeline is, or
so
currently
in our contract, we have the end date being October 31st. So my goal and what I've relayed to the contractor is get that project done by the end of October. Yeah, I spoke with Blue Sky actually this morning and kind of relayed that point that we're looking to have this project done this this field season, and we're getting closer to your winter, even though it's technically like the first day of fall, or just about first day of fall. But he assured me that it's it's on schedule for them, minus the few little hiccups they had up front. So yeah, they didn't seem concerned with that meeting that timeline. Any other questions on the 218 project? All right, not hearing any other questions on that. Next thing I had on the agenda was to talk about current blood lead levels. And I'm going to kind of pass it over to Heidi, but I know that just last week she had reached out to Linda and I about a elevated blood lead level for a newer resident within the community, and so there was some back and forth going on about that one particular case, but I'll let Heidi speak a little bit more to that.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, because our internet is not fantastic, so I think I'll talk without the video, which I know is weird, but I think I'll stall too much if I don't. So yeah, so 5190 is the 218 East 7th kiddo. And I did finally get mom to say that I don't have any paperwork to verify, but did get her to say that the kiddo was a 4, all the kids tested 4 or lower. So I just put 4, but so that was at least some sort of information. And then 5267 had just been elevated and now it's going down, and just getting kiddo and mom to get back in here. So just awaiting that, and that should be happening, like I say, hopefully latest next month. Then 5261, everyone that I talked
You broke up there, Heidi.
to in any relation to the schools, pretty sure this kiddo has moved. But I did send a letter. I haven't got the letter back. I'm like, no one, oh, they say this kiddo has moved. I've not been able to get a hold of, so maybe they do still live there, but I'm going to try to get in contact with them.
Okay.
And
so
then
you broke up a little bit there, Heidi. So that you were just talking about 5261, right?
Yes, that's still 5261. Yeah. I
Okay,
just can't
so-
get a hold of them. I don't think they
Okay.
live here anymore. 5298 is the patient that's pregnant. Like Kyle said, I did contact Kyle and Linda as soon as I did test that woman. She is going back and forth from Kansas to Leadville about every other week. So what was recommended was to get whoever she's staying with, get them tested, and then get her husband tested who lives in Kansas. Husband's getting tested today. I tested the mom and the kid last week and they were low. The kiddo had been tested since age 1 and it's always been low. The houses don't seem to be of any risk. The big thing that we're thinking, and at this point hoping that mom is elevated with, is that she had a ton of Mexican candy like 2 days before and just likes that. So that is the initial thought. And we've had lots of education, lots of handouts, lots of interaction. I'm actually going to retest mom tomorrow. It's been 2 weeks. We decided for peace of mind of mom, that would be nice to do. And I will just continue to keep you guys updated.
Heidi, can you speak a little bit to kind of what you would expect the like the halftime, I guess is a way to say it, of like lead in the system. So, if she ate the candy right before that last test, and you're testing her a couple weeks out, what would you expect to see as a drop in blood lead?
I don't really know if I can say that. I don't really know. I mean,
Gotcha.
Jackie might know. I feel like she still has much more experience than I, but I feel like, so I didn't say the kiddo was tested that day too, which she's 2 years old. She had some Mexican candy, but I feel like that was mom's craving, unfortunately. So she had a tremendous amount, but kiddo tested low,
Right.
No sign. But I'm hopeful that it's like half. I don't know. That's my hope.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah, thanks for kind of putting a number out there, giving us your best guess. Yeah, from everything that you told me about the situation, it didn't seem like it was environmental. It didn't seem like it was coming from the residents in Leadville. If we get any more information down the line that kind of points to a residential issue, maybe we can do further investigation. But I think we've taken all the right steps. In this case, providing the information, kind of tracking down where we think this source is coming from. So yeah, I definitely would like to be kept in a loop to see what those levels end up being. But I think the kind of approach that we're taking right now is appropriate.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I'll definitely let you guys know after I get the results back, and that's really all I have.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, just keep us in the loop on that one. But from what I'm hearing, I don't think we have any proposed sites for an environmental investigation at this time. So yeah, just keep us in the loop on that, on 5298, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, sorry, I lied. I was just going to say one more thing. We were able to do some testing at school registration or screening, which was awesome because last year was, what it was. But it was numbers are definitely down, but the schools are really keeping in contact and lots of kids have come in since. So I feel hopeful about that, just that we're being able to test kids again, and that's looking better.
Yeah, that's great news.
Yeah. And Colleen was at a meeting at CMC, just to throw that out there, our Colleen director, just to say, I don't think she's going to make it today. And she didn't have anything to present.
Okay.
Did you have something, Sarah? Sorry. Oh,
No, I
you looked
didn't.
like it.
I
Okay.
was saying nice work on keeping kids engaged or through the school.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for that update, Heidi. We can kind of move on to the next topic I had on the agenda, and that was to kind of bring the OU 6, 11, and 12 ICs back to the discussion. Linda has been doing some work in the background with EPA's community involvement individual on putting together a potential meeting to kind of brief the public on those ICs again. So I kind of turned it over to Linda and to let the group know about that work.
Yeah, and Kyle, since we had talked earlier, I went back and I pulled an email from Melanie back probably a year and a half ago when we first started looking at this, and it was before COVID. And so at that time, we were looking at, I don't know if it's going to let me share my screen, a joint public hearing with the land department. And so that was one of the questions I wanted to ask the commissioners. We wanted to make sure we were using the appropriate method to reach out to the public. And it looks like there might be a procedure that we need to use with the building department and have a joint public hearing. And I think Melanie had drafted a note, someone drafted a notice back then. So would that still be the case to commissioners?
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
No,
Sarah.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know that I don't have anything wise to say or remembering that really specifically, Linda. I'm sorry. I think it would be beneficial to have a publicly noticed hearing and conversation. But I don't remember exactly what was outlined.
So should I contact Paul Clarkson and see what the process would be and how he would do that? Because so what was drafted before, let's see, the Lake County Planning Commission will conduct a joint public hearing with the Board of Commissioners in a meeting room. And the purpose is to receive public comments regarding the changes to the land code in adding the institutional controls. And then this notice had information available in the building department for people to review, which that was pre-COVID. So we probably would have something up on the internet or something. The previous two times when we adopted, or you guys adopted ordinances for institutional controls, we didn't have a public hearing. So since the need for it came up back a year and a half ago, Kyle and I have talked with select parties that we thought were confused as to what the ordinance was and how it would affect them. So I am confident that those people that were confused did get some information. And I do think it would be valuable to have a public hearing, but I don't know if it's completely necessary at this point. And then the other thing that's different from the other two times is we are instituting an intergovernmental agreement between the state and the county as part of this. And that might be something that the community would want to comment on too. So that is different than the previous two times.
Linda, this is Jackie. My question then, when you're saying changes to the land use and doing the MOUs and setting institutional controls, is this then what was attempted to delist from being Superfund site? Is that going to be the wording for this?
No, so delisting is a whole separate process. And we do that when all the work is done and institutional controls are in place. So this is one step that would get us closer to delisting. Operable Unit 11, which is the Arkansas Valley floodplain. And then the other one that after that would be up for deletion, but it's not anywhere near ready for it, is the site-wide water quality, which we've been meeting our water quality goals for many years. So this is different than the delisting. So when
another point worth mentioning too is that they're also required by the records of decision for those OUs. So we're just implementing something that was already kind of determined to be necessary by those record of decision documents.
exactly.
But I want to speak to Jackie's concern, because as I recall, she was one of the individuals that was raising questions when those draft ICs came out. And those draft ICs do indicate that this is being done for the purpose of delisting. So I think that, Jackie, to answer your question, the documents that would be the subject of the public hearing are just the institutional controls. It's not the delisting. EPA takes action to delist the site, and that's a whole separate process. But as Linda said, this is the first step, and this is what you need to do in order to proceed to delisting, assuming that you can get there someday. So what Linda is talking about is taking those documents, I assume, maybe amended, I don't know, we haven't had any conversation about that, but presenting them basically in a public forum. Is that correct, Linda?
That's what the joint public hearing would be, is notifying people this is what the institutional control would be,
right?
Why it's needed, and that's to protect public health and how it would affect them, right, and how we've been implementing it on our other operable units. And then Jackie, for delisting, there is a public comment process as part of that. And that's a very formal one that we go through the Federal Register, comments are submitted. But as part of that, EPA gives a big narrative as to why it's eligible for delisting and why we think it's appropriate. Delisting does not prevent EPA from going back and doing more work if we have more information that there is a public health concern or there's a new emerging contaminant. So it doesn't prohibit us from ever going back and doing things, and we still will conduct our operations and maintenance. And so maintaining the remedy up and along the river, making sure that the vegetation is holding and that the tailings that were stabilized, that's working for that one. For the site-wide water quality, we will be monitoring for eternity, basically, to make sure that we're meeting those goals. And if there's any new information, say the water quality standards for the river change and they are lowered, then that would be taken into consideration. So delisting is more, I think it's more beneficial to the community, because then it's not officially part of the Superfund site. And in some cases in Leadville, there were some people that couldn't get loans because they were part of it. Once that particular operable unit was removed from the Superfund site, they were able to get loans. So, but we can always go back and do more work, and the state will be doing operations and maintenance, as will Newmont and EPA. So we don't go away.
Yeah, and one point I wanted to mention as well is that because there was waste left in place in these operable units, we do something that's called a 5-year review. So every 5 years we go back and look at these operable units, and like Linda was saying, we look to see if protectiveness has changed, or any parts of the site have changed that would require us to do additional work. And so we review those things every 5 years at the site. And so yeah, even though our goal is to ultimately delist those operable units. We'll still be, keeping an eye on them and making sure that they're protective of human health.
Okay, so then our ask as public health would be, is EPA and CDPHE going to have like a public, a PIO type person that we can refer questions to? And, our recommendation is, let's try to be upfront with the community and make sure that your community representative or whomever you said you're working with can help tailor these messages out appropriately to the public so that they can better understand this process and not feel like we're just sweeping this under the rug or doing it without notifying the public, because that's where we have gotten some blowback from the public, calling public health saying, why aren't you aware of this process? Why don't you know what's going on? So we want to try to head that off here at the beginning with communications, and let's keep us in the know of what's going on, but who can we refer those questions to? Because we're not going to be the subject matter experts trying to field public questions on this process.
Yeah, and I think that both Linda and I would be the primary contacts for those sort of questions. We are engaging our community involvement folks to help kind of put that information out there, but Linda and I are still the primary resources for those type of questions right now. So
a couple years ago when this kind of came up, and I was just asking, can we have like a joint communication, some kind of a joint statement ahead of time that helps EPA, CDPHE, Lake County government, and Lake County Public Health Agency have a statement that is all one verbiage, so we're not, getting nailed to the wall by community members for not being in the know or not caring, because we do care. It's just often as public health, we come to these meetings, but we aren't kept in the know on some of the other like land use or the other processes. So
yeah, I don't see an issue with us, kind of crafting some sort of joint statement like that. Would you anticipate it going? I'm guessing you would anticipate it going out before any of these joint public meetings that we were just discussing, right?
Well, and I think it could be in that announcement or that legal notice of the meeting, just stating that we're aware that it's going to happen, we're on the same page, but listing who's those point of contacts, and if it's going to be you and Linda, then if there's contact information or something, that would be great. That way we're not, as public health, just getting flooded with upset people if they feel that this is being swept under the rug or being done without public comment or proper notification to the public.
Okay.
I think that's where last time it was, some people felt like it wasn't being made public enough.
Okay. Yeah, that's good input for sure. Linda, do you think that's something that you could have Lisa work on?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
The county legal would like to review that, please, before it's distributed. And Jackie, just so you know, I mean, every one of these that's been done prior has been done in a public meeting, through prior publication and announcement with the commissioners, and it's not been done in a back room. I know that you are kind of the point person that takes a lot of heat from the community, and we want to help alleviate that. You shouldn't be that person. And so I think we can certainly do that, but it would be helpful if you can, as people ask you, reassure them that yes, this is a public process, and of course, that will be done. So.
And Jackie,
Yes,
I think it would be, if you could just refer them to me or Kyle, I think that would be, we can get them the right information, the most up to date, and then that takes pressure off of you, because that's, and I've told the elected officials in Leadville for 12 years, there's so much stuff about the Superfund site, it's almost impossible to know everything. So I don't expect elected officials or county officials to know. And so, please send them to Kyle and I. And usually one of us is around, so we back each other up. So, and let each other know who called us. So, we'll get to them right away and answer their questions, because sometimes we can head some of this off and before it gets spun up into something that it is more than it actually is.
Yeah, and I greatly appreciate that, because I've definitely been receiving a lot of heat for this new mine that's not new mine, it's an old mine, going through a CUP process to reopen within 5 miles of the city. And the number of complaints and persistent folks that are on me for why am I not trying to stop this from happening is quite frustrating. It's not my role. I'm not an engineer. I can't make those kind of decisions. So trying to make sure that those communications are just out there ahead of time, I greatly appreciate that, so that it's not overwhelming me and making me the bad guy. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel for you. That is a tough position to be in when people are calling about things that are regulated by another agency. So, and that is a DRMS project, Division of Reclamation and Mining Safety. So, Kyle and I, our involvement is that they follow institutional controls. And also record of decisions. So the slag piles that are down by Dietrich Construction, Kyle and I have been contacted because it's in the record of decision that can be used for road base. And so they've asked, they're letting us know what their plans are for that material. And then we'll be submitting a letter saying that it is following the record of decision and that's appropriate. So that's the extent of our role in those areas. So I know that mine has created a lot of talk within the county.
It's the new mill, right? That's what we're talking about.
The CGK.
Existing, CJK, new owners, existing mill. They've applied for an amendment to expand operations.
Yeah, Linda and I are familiar with that project, and honestly, ultimately, I think it could be beneficial for the site and for Leadville, barring they don't make the environmental conditions of the site worse than they already are. As long as they follow the DRMS guidelines, they're everything that they're required to do under that permit process, it should be beneficial. To be able to reprocess some of those, those tailings and those ores, it could ultimately, alleviate some of the waste pile issues within the site. So, as vocal as some of those the local folks might be, I understand that there's some people that live close to the new operations that aren't very happy, and that is unfortunate. But I think overall it has the potential to be a net benefit up there. So as long as they're not doing things that are not supposed to be doing, and they're following all the correct procedures, I think it will be a good venture that they started.
Well, like Jackie's saying, I think just to try to summarize the desire again, one, I think it would be good to Jackie's relating that current process. I think it's helpful to understand like what the state's process is, for us to communicate that clearly, for people to have feel like they have a clear way to access or track and monitor progress on that kind of thing. So
and for that project specifically, it's kind of been the CDPHE's position to defer to DRMS on active mining within our site boundaries. So realistically, unless the work that they're doing is impacting some, a record of decision remedy or work that was documented under a record of decision through the CERCLA process, our stance is to pass those questions along to DRMS, because they're the ones that are actively permitting this mine operation. So
right,
they're going to be the main point of contact for that particular activity within the site.
Yeah, understood. But so as far as our purpose though, on like the OU listings and the covenants and a new ordinance, I think like at the core of it, it would be awesome to have some sort of shared meeting that's informative to land use, public health, environmental health, BOCC, maybe planning commissioners, so that we can help in messaging either what little or surface level information we can understand and properly reiterate to folks. And then we can get educated on the process that will be going on at the state level, and outline that whole timeline to folks at the state level, and then where it involves us, and then when, you know, that will happen. And I think, like you said, Linda, I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily asking, of course, to rehash and give us a full history, but if there's some, like, you know, collection of information that you think is relevant for this that could be shared in a public meeting, just really, again, kind of informational for those entities, and then an outline of what the overall timeline looks like, that would be, I think that'd be good. And
yeah, and that's more or less, I think, what Linda's goal of the joint public meeting would be, is to get that information out there. I think that we'd be a little hesitant to, you know, put information regarding the mill operations into that. You know, we want to kind of stick it to, you know, keep it to the ICs and kind of that process. But if people have questions about it, we could, you know, we could field those questions, certainly.
yeah.
So Linda, just a point for you. It was Paul Clarkson that drafted that prior notice of the joint
Oh, we did?
public hearing. Yeah, that wasn't
Okay.
me. And so, and he has very specific notification timelines. So, and he was also a person at the time that was expressing concern. So I think it would be very helpful for you, maybe both you and Kyle, but especially you, Linda, to give Paul a call and just sort of remind him of what we're doing, walk him through, but kind of the same thing that Sarah just indicated would be helpful for the community, so that he understands. And he, I don't know his involvement in the prior actions, but I think it's important for him to really get an understanding of the fact that we're not doing anything new. I mean, this has been done, you know, what, 8, 9, 10 times already.
Right.
Part of decisions that were made long ago by, you know, EPA in the rod. So if you could work in advance with Paul to help him get that understanding. And then he was the one to do that joint meeting. And so if you could please keep me in the loop, and I'll stay in close contact with the commissioners, so that everybody's on the same page, nobody gets surprised, and we all have the same message. I think that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, and I think he was not the building department director during the previous ones. So this probably did seem new to him. So yeah, I certainly will get with him and Kyle, and we'll get a plan.
Yeah, I'm available to meet with him, you know, if we want to schedule like a Zoom call or something like that, just to, you know, get him up to speed.
Okay. And do you know when the CUP hearing is for the mill? Is it coming up, or?
I don't think we've actually gotten an application because the state's process isn't complete yet.
Okay.
I think they have a hearing coming up end of October, maybe November. I see Commissioner Marcella unmuted though. You might have other info.
No, I was just gonna say exactly what you had said, is we have not received a reapplication for the conditional use permit at the site, but they do have a current conditional use permit with the site. But I think that now that they're changing and have a new application with DRMS, we're waiting for that to be completed before we do any moves on our end.
Yeah, and Kyle and Linda, on that one, the concerns that have been sent to me so far are concerns with the proposed use of the cyanide, sodium cyanide that's in Paul Clarkson's report that he had sent out. So you can certainly, when you're talking to Paul, ask him for that and he can give you more information. But the concerns are around the possible use of this cyanide within the 5-mile radius of the city of Leadville. And that's where there has been a lot of concern, and I'm trying to stay low key on that.
Understood.
Okay.
Linda, what kind of time frame could we maybe ask you guys to join a planning commission work session where the board and the planning commission and land use staff kind of already have reoccurring meetings, and to give us kind of a background and a opportunity for Q&A?
Is like a precursor to everything, or is part of it?
I mean, I guess as part of it. Or in my mind, like info sharing so that we understand how we can be helpful in sharing out this information is the first step. And then that might be, you know, I don't know if we then have a meeting to actually view the documentation that's being considered, and we can kind of further talk through that. And that, you know, at least those 2 meetings would be.
That
Okay.
makes sense. So do you have regularly scheduled planning meetings?
Yeah, they're usually on the second and fourth Mondays, but they've been more frequent lately.
Well, if
Okay.
you want to kind of send us your upcoming meeting schedule, Linda and I can look at ours and we can coordinate with you for a time that we can join
Okay.
in on those calls.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense because we have Jeff's new, and I don't know if Kayla was on when we started this process with these particular operable units. So maybe like a refresher, and then maybe even Paul can attend to get an update on it. And the other thing we can include is how the institutional controls have been working since they've been put into place. Because I think they've been working really well. So I think that's good news. I think our process is good, and Kyle's very quick in turning back things around with people. So let's do that first before we do some type of hearing with the public. Okay.
Sounds good. I mean, it will be a public hearing or a public meeting, but it won't be open like a town hall kind of format. So
Right, like a work
we
session.
can record it. Yeah, we can record it and put that online, and then we can refer people to that for information as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds really beneficial. So just send us those dates and we'll get with you on when we can attend. Melanie, would you want to join those meetings as well, or do you already attend those meetings?
Do not attend the meetings. Sarah, does Chris attend those meetings?
Yeah, typically.
Yeah, I think for this one, I would like to participate. If that's okay
All
with
right.
the commissioners.
We'll make sure we include you on those coordination emails.
And if y'all don't mind, this is Jackie. I would like to listen in on those too, just so that I can hear and better understand myself, and just so that I can continue to learn. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Jackie, I think it'd be beneficial for all related county departments to be notified of that. Public Works, land use, I mean, they'll be there, but yeah, I think we can share that and that would be beneficial. Absolutely agree.
All right, anything else on the ICs? All right, so I didn't have anything else on the agenda, but you know, as we kind of talked about at the top of the meeting, there was you know, the issue about the mineral belt trail, and so I think now would be a good time to get into that.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for joining, Mayor. You know, there's activity on removal of the asphalt there, and so I don't know if you want to give us a background there, Mayor, or a plan.
I would say, first of all, and I'll apologize to the county commissioners and to Michael Irwin, a misunderstanding on my part, but I'll explain. Last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, I've lost track of time, we rerouted the Mineral Belt Trail so that it went through through Tritz Park instead of around the outside of it. When we did that, the asphalt that had been the Mineral Belt Trail that was no longer being used still sat there. And I always thought of it as a continuation of this project to remove that other asphalt so that there was no misunderstanding about where the trail went. So, but as was pointed out to me this morning, that was actually a capping, in the EPA's mind of the railroad grade that went through there. So the asphalt, it popped right out. It's gone. I would say there is about 12 inches. I had my crew measure 12 inches of road base. So the road base, whenever that was built, the Middle Belt Trail was actually put in place. They put in 12 inches of road base and then put the asphalt over the top of that. I guess in terms of my mistake, what would you need from me immediately? I mean today, to do whatever we need to do to make sure that the remediation of that railroad grade is still considered safe.
So what's the location?
It's right. It's at 12th, approximately 12th and Poplar, or Highway 24. And the Mineral Belt Trail came across, and then it crossed the highway in a very awkward location, but we won't get into that. And that crossing no longer exists. We took out the crosswalk. Just recently, last week, CDOT came to High Country Developers and said there was still the curb cut that existed there. Oh, good, thank you. The curb cut that existed there, they wanted that curb cut taken out and sidewalk repoured. And so when I was out there with my crew last week, I said, well, now's the time to go ahead and remove that piece of trail, because we actually had to put actually the county did, Michael Irwin and County Road and Bridge had to put up a sign there, telling people not to enter there because it was a pretty obvious curb cut onto asphalt. Anyway, all that having been said, we did remove the asphalt. So I apologize for that. I'm willing to do whatever we need to do today, right now, to make sure everybody is okay with the safety of that piece of ground.
So part of encapsulating that, there probably was fine slag, which could be an inhalation hazard. So, it's not known until you really look at it and see, but I think that material would need to be removed, and Kyle would know better the best management practices for that. And depending on the amount of material, I mean, it's possible it could go to the repository if we sign off on that. Doesn't look like it's a lot of material, but Kyle, what are your thoughts?
So it does sound to me right now that we do have a somewhat cap, in place with that road-based material that hasn't been removed. So I could see kind of two options. The option A being the one that Linda kind of talked about, where you remove the road base and you remove whatever fine slag is identified, and you bring that to the repository. Second option being, I don't know what your plans for this area, but you could do a clean fill cap in place where you put clean soil and you re-veg it, and that's what you do. I think either option in this case would be viable. Obviously, going into winter, you're not going to re-veg it right now, but if you say put up fences or put up some sort of barrier to keep folks from going in there, maybe some runoff controls, stormwater runoff to keep any of that material from leaving that area. You could handle it that way as well. The main thing that we want to make sure is that there's no kind of direct path to exposure, and so essentially either removing it all or implementing a new cap is what I think.
It does have the 12 inches of road base, which we didn't disturb.
Right.
And so if we were to come in and put fill dirt over top of that for the time being, do you think that would be, and then in the spring, we could actually seed it now with native grass, go ahead and seed it. Something that Michael and I talked about is he really felt like that was an important pathway across there. And so we could work with the county on putting a new pathway through there in the spring, if indeed it was properly capped and safe. And it would also be nice to have some vegetation along there. There's a ditch line right along one side, so drainage is very good along there. But I'm open to whatever you feel like needs to be done.
Yeah, I like I said, I think the approach of adding clean fill in there and then re-vegging would definitely be appropriate. If you could provide us with some documentation that that indicates that clean fill or that road base layer that you're seeing, that 12 inches
Sure.
of road base, and
I have the street department take pictures of it, so
yeah, if you could send us an email with that information, that would just be good for us to have in our
We'll do that.
records.
You bet.
But essentially, when we're talking about caps on this type of material, that's the depth that we're talking about is 12 plus inches. So if you already have that road base on there, then you were to put some sort of clean fill material on top of that.
Do you think 6 inches of fill on top of that?
That would be fine.
Well?
The one thing that you're going to run into is I don't know where you're getting your soil from, but from our standpoint, we would want it tested and made sure that it doesn't contain elevated metals concentration. And so if you could, you'd want to document that as well if we're doing a vegetated cap approach. So yeah, you'd want some analytical data to go along with whatever soil you end up putting there.
I'll try and make those arrangements today. I'll try and find some soil that has been tested. I'm not quite sure exactly where that's going to be, but I'll do what I can.
Yeah, and honestly, a soil test is not very expensive. It's maybe a few $100s.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be hard to get that data and document that. Yeah, but I think that's your fastest option, other than just a complete removal, which could end up getting expensive. And you'd want to make sure that you're following DMPs, wetting the material, making sure that there isn't you have dust controls and the like. So kind of either option I don't see as being easy immediately today, but they're definitely both doable.
Okay. What about, I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas because I'm trying to figure out, what's the best approach. Fill dirt sounds fine. Would putting a rotomill over the top of it be effective? I'd rather have the fill dirt, because then if in the spring we could put a nice pathway through there that's vegetated as well, that might be very attractive.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with what you called it, something mill. I'm not
Run of the
familiar
mill is
with
just,
that.
it's just ground up asphalt. We have some, you know, because
Yeah, I mean-
of all the paving projects that have been done by CDOT in Lake County in the last year.
That would be equally as effective as a temporary measure. If you're looking just to put something down to ensure that that cap is effective through the winter, that would be fine. And then if you want to,
Yeah,
you work with us on options to pursue
that
in the
would
spring.
very much stabilize the cap in terms of really making it very solid. I mean,
Yeah,
the cap's been there, the road base has been there, you know, for, you know, 16, 17 years. So it's probably pretty stable.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we're, that I think you want to try to avoid through the winter is disturbance of that road base if you're not planning on removing it at this time. Because that's essentially acting as your cap right now without the asphalt there.
Okay, well, I
So,
appreciate that. I'd like to hear from Michael what he thinks.
Is he on the call?
Yeah, he's.
I just haven't gotten on yet. I mean, I
There he
haven't had to
is.
figure out how to turn my mic on. You know, so I'm worried that the moisture is going to get to it. And yes, the road base was disturbed by the tractor, so it's not solid, like it hasn't been disturbed. You know, we had the best cap on it we had 6 inches of asphalt on top of it. But now we want to put crushed asphalt to take that place. It's going to look worse than it did with the asphalt. And you know, I'm not sure why we took the asphalt off.
yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And I'm not that familiar with the specific material that was being capped in that location, but
It was fine slag.
fine slag. Was there an ARD concern with the fine slag?
It's an inhalation hazard.
Okay, yeah. So from a term point of water infiltration, I don't think that we're concerned with water contacting this material. It's like Linda said, it was more of an inhalation hazard if that dust got picked up into the air. So using that crushed asphalt wouldn't be problematic from water contacting that material.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not worried about the water contacting it. I'm worried about it washing away.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Runoff and stuff, because that takes a lot of snow on the bike path in the wintertime because of, you know, they use the mineral belt trail for cross-country skiing and stuff. So the mineral belt trail is a year-round thing. It just changes from bikes in the summertime to skiing or winter sports in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's true. But in the wintertime, that snow is essentially acting as your cap in those locations. You have to worry about some of that, maybe in the spring melt, some of that material traveling, but in the winter, that snow and ice would essentially be acting as your cap for that material.
So in the past, they were able to find clean fill by Diamond Lake. So I don't know where by Diamond Lake, but that was a site in the past.
Okay, yeah, I think they cleaned the material out of the bottom of the lake.
Oh, okay.
Up there.
Is that a Parkville question?
Yeah, the sediment out of the lake.
Mm-hmm. What is the ultimate, sorry, Mayor, if I missed it, really, what's the ultimate plan for the park? And I guess I just am wondering, like, what, I recall, or I don't recall that, is that actually a city park? I don't recall that transfer.
No, the county owns the park. The city has taken on maintenance of the park. You know, we've been cleaning up trash. We put in the benches and the bicycle rack. Of course, the We Love Leadville sign, the landscaping, rocks. We planted trees and grass in the park.
Mhm.
So that's been an ongoing project for us, especially because the We Love Leadville sign is there in that park.
Okay, well, I mean, is this now coordination, better coordination between you, Mayor, and what is the site plan? I mean, maybe we should revisit that as well. Because I guess I'm not clear whether, like, do you just want to re-veg it or create parking, or?
Are you talking about the trail, that piece of trail that's been abandoned? No,
Yeah.
I don't want it to be parking, heavens no. In fact, CDOT wants that street cut taken out of there. They want the sidewalk repoured there. So that's kind of a different project and shouldn't affect us. In the meantime, I'm just concerned that we screwed up, and that I need to make sure that we're doing something right away to take care of this. It sounds like, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it sounds like fill dirt might be the best solution. Find some clean fill dirt, get it in there, and then we can put down native grass seed, now. Because it takes pretty well. It's certainly taken very well in Trent's Park and stabilized the soil there. So that seems like a good thing. And then possibly, Michael, in the spring, that we talk about what we could do to put a pathway in there. You had said you felt like that was an important, kind of pathway between the sidewalk and that other part of the Mineral Belt Trail. And if we feel like that's something we want to do, then I'm happy to make that happen.
So I have
Yeah,
a
that
question.
was one of the
Lynn-
reasons it was left there also, is because it, provided access to the sidewalk going to the north. So people didn't have to turn and go clear to the east before they turned and went back north. It was just basically a shortcut access that we planned to leave there, so.
Okay.
So Linda, do you know, probably you don't, but maybe you do, you know a lot, off the top of your head specifically what the ROD required? Because we can throw out a whole lot of, ideas here today, and the two that have been mentioned are the most obvious, but I want to make sure that, whatever is done is consistent with the ROD. And also, since this is, a county facility, that, a plan is basically presented for the commissioners to understand and approve it.
I'm fairly certain. So encapsulation is what it recommends. I'll have to look to see if it was very specific to asphalt, or if some other type of cap would serve the purpose of that.
What
Yeah.
OU is this?
Well, it's probably going to end up being OU9, but the fine slag was part of operable unit 3. And so there was a contingency in that ROD that the fine slag could be used as road base and be encapsulated in probably asphalt. So 3 would probably have more information on it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we don't, the city doesn't go out and spend money doing something and then we come back and say, oh, well, that, isn't consistent with what was required, so.
Yeah, and who,
Right.
I mean, should Mayor work directly with you or Kyle, Linda?
Probably the both of us, if you keep us
Yeah.
both in the loop.
I'm gonna go get you pictures and send them to both you, Kyle, and Linda. At least so you can see what we're talking about. I mean, you're kind of, we're talking about this in a bit of a vacuum for you. I mean, the commissioners and I and Michael kind of know exactly what this is. But for you, it's without seeing it, it's probably a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and if you'd include Michael on that too, for
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
like being aware of the work and monitoring.
Yeah,
agree.
because I guess my biggest concern is long-term. So it is a shortcut. People will be walking on it. So, whatever type of cover is put on it needs to be able to last for 50 years. So if they're walking on grass, I mean, that's not going to last very long. And then are people gonna just ride their bike on it anyway? Is, because it was part of the, no, there's no way they can do that. Okay.
There are signs telling them not to, let's put it that way, that there were, you know, before. So who knows what people are going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to scan through the OU3 rod real quick, and I haven't come across what it said specifically about the Mineral Belt Trail, but that's kind of going to be my next thing to do after this meeting, is go through those decision documents to make sure that it just
Yeah.
doesn't call out anything specific.
And I think it's covered under the ordinance too.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at the map of operable units covered by ordinances, and that part of the Middle Belt Trail is highlighted.
Okay.
So I think it is part of the OU3 ordinance.
Okay.
Is OU3 still an active operable unit?
It's been
No.
delisted.
Okay. All right.
All right, well, if you just keep us apprised of those conversations and proposals, that'd
And
be great.
Michael, would you have time to go out there and walk it with me and look at it?
Yeah, I can do that. I've got a meeting at 1 o'clock, but it's the afternoon right now, so.
What works for you?
If you want to meet me out there pretty soon, I can do that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be around 2 o'clock.
As soon as we're done with the meeting, I'm going to head out there to get some pictures anyway. So,
All right.
oh, all right.
Okay. Thanks for joining, Mayor.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I guess the
now,
easiest thing would be just put the asphalt back.
you know, it's a thought. I mean, you know, we could do that too. I personally, I would hate to do that because I think it's going to look better if we could do something nicer, some sort of walkway in there. It would just be more appealing in general, but that's an opinion at this point.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging around to talk through that, everybody.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'm headed out there. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, I think with that, we can end our meeting. Do we want to go ahead and schedule next week's or next times, or should I send out a doodle poll?
I think let's schedule it.
Okay. Let me pull up a calendar. So.
Talking about November.
Yeah, so later in November works for me. Do you guys want to do let's see, the 24th?
Is there anything in December?
Yeah, December would also work for me. Let's see.
It's kind of a crazy time. I mean, isn't the 24th like Thanksgiving or whatever?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty close to there.
Not available.
I wonder, do we want to try to schedule some of those planning commission and informational meetings and substitute this meeting with that? Or is that not necessarily appropriate?
I think it would still be good to have the LCCHP meeting
Okay.
kind of separate if there's any blood lead issues that we need to talk about. I think it'd just be good to keep it separate.
Okay.
So maybe we should do January for the LCCHP.
That would work for me as well. Let's see. Going out to January. So it looks like my Colleen has some standing meetings on Wednesdays at 11:30. Going out that far. So if we would want to do it on a Wednesday, it'd have to be later in the afternoon to have her attend.
Can you do it earlier in the day?
Yeah, or we could do it earlier in the day, like a 9 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
And Linda or Kyle, Mike Colleen was not able to join today. Were there any outstanding budget items or necessary votes or anything on budgets that need to come through this that I need to circle back to Colleen on if this is being pushed out to January?
If you could just remind her to have her budget done by the end of December, and then they can get it out to the LCCHP group, and then we could review and approve it in January. So if you can just get it on her to-do list for December.
Absolutely.
I think the 5th or 12th would work in January.
Yeah, we can do the 5th at 9 a.m.
Okay, let's aim for that and see what happens.
All right, yeah, great. I'll send everyone the invite as soon as we get off the call, just so they can put it on the calendar.
Okay, thanks.
So who's taking the lead on scheduling the joint working sessions with the planning commission?
So I think our first thing that we were going to do was have that attend the planning meeting, the standing planning meeting, and then from there we could work on scheduling that joint meeting, the joint public notice meeting.
Well, the work session that I was referring to is a joint meeting with the commissioners and the planning commission. So I guess the work session is the first thing that you're going to attend. So Sarah, are you taking the lead on that then?
Yeah, I can do that. I can definitely forward that with the other commissioners on, copied on there, and request that kind of agenda item and our plan. I guess really the full meeting, I think would be taken up by that. But what kind of lead time, Linda and Kyle, would you want to prepare, materials?
So I would say like early November. So I know Kyle's in the fields for a good portion of October.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the end of
So-
October, beginning of November is really bad for me.
October, beginning of November. So end of November, maybe. Okay, well, we will look at because we do have some public hearings coming up and whatnot, but I'll keep end of November in mind. Again, that might not work out with the holiday, but we'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Because it looks like it should be the 15th and because the 1st is a Monday, so the 8th and the 22nd. But that might work, actually.
Yeah. The
8th or
22nd.
sounds like the 22nd based on Kyle's. Okay. Well,
November 22nd?
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do a internal kind of doodle to make sure that everybody, on our end that could be available, and then and we'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
too.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.